What if your reality is a lie? Imagine looking out at the world around you. You see colors, shapes, and movement. You hear sounds and feel textures. It all feels real and shakably real. But what if I told you that right now, your brain is inventing a reality that doesn't fully exist? What if everything you see, hear, and feel is just an illusion, carefully constructed by your mind? From mirages in the desert to phantom voices in the silence, hallucinations have long been associated with madness and mysticism. But new research reveals something astonishing. Hallucinations are not just for the mentally ill or the sleep deprived. In fact, you are hallucinating every single moment of your life. Your brain is constantly filtering, editing, and fabricating reality, often without you even realizing it. So how does this work? Why do perfectly sane people see things that aren't there? And if reality is just a construct of the mind, can we ever trust what we perceive? Let's explore the startling science of hallucinations, what they reveal about the way your brain constructs reality, and what happens when this delicate system goes wrong. The feeling of being real. Bertie Bowers, a member of Captain Scott's ill-fated expedition to the South Pole in 1911, knew something was amiss when a herd of cattle appeared in the distance of the featureless Antarctic landscape. In ancient times, a strange experience like this might have been treated as a message beamed directly from the gods. More recently, hallucinations were recognized as common symptoms of mental illnesses, such as schizophrenia. Now, though, it is clear that they occur in people with perfectly sound mental health. Around 5% of us will experience at least one hallucination in our lifetime, and the likelihood increases when we reach our 60s. Hallucinations are sensations that appear real, but are not elicited by anything in our external environment. They are not only visual, they can also come in the form of sounds, smells, even touch. It's difficult to imagine just how real they seem unless you've experienced one. Musical hallucinations, for example, are not just imagining a tune in your head, but more like listening to the radio inside your mind. The hallucinations of people of sound mind have led to a better understanding of how the brain goes about creating a world that doesn't really exist, revealing their important role in our perception of the real world, and perhaps even how the very fabric of our reality is constructed. Brain scans of people having visual hallucinations show that brain areas active during the hallucination are also active while viewing a real version of the image. In the brain, hallucinations look a lot like real perception. Sensory deprivation. When the brain fills in the gaps, hallucinations in people who have recently lost a sense may reveal the most about how the brain works. In the early 1700s, the Swiss scientist Charles Bonnet described his increasingly blind grandfather beginning to hallucinate the appearance of people in his room, wearing majestic cloaks of red and gray. Something similar can happen with other senses. A person who is losing their hearing might hallucinate music, and someone who has lost their sense of smell might hallucinate strong odors. But why does this happen? Sensory loss doesn't even have to be permanent to bring on hallucinations. When our senses are diminished, all of us have the potential to hallucinate. This is what gave rise to the illusion of a herd of Antarctic cattle for the explorer Bowers. His hallucination happened during a whiteout, when a combination of cloudy sky and a featureless snowy surface deprived him of visual information from the landscape. So his mind made something up. Truck drivers on long, empty roads sometimes experience something similar. And when put inside an anechoic chamber room so silent that you can hear your eyeballs moving, people generally start to hallucinate within 20 minutes of the door closing behind them. One explanation for this is that the brain doesn't tolerate a lack of external information. When starved of data from the real world, it turns inward, where the sensory regions continue their low-level, spontaneous activity. Usually, this activity is suppressed and corrected by real sensory data coming in from the world. But when starved of information, such as in the deathly silence of an anechoic chamber, the brain turns to its internal churnings to make predictions about what is happening. Is your brain making things up? Although bombarded by thousands of sensations every second, the brain rarely stops providing you with a steady stream of consciousness. When you blink, your world doesn't disappear, nor do you notice the hum of traffic outside your home or the tightness of your socks. Processing everything all the time would be a very inefficient way to run a brain. Instead, it takes a few shortcuts. Most of the time, the brain uses its predictions to fill in the missing pieces and to keep the world around you in line with expectations. Interestingly, the sense of touch seems to be the exception to the rule. Your skin is never short of sensory input, from the chair beneath you to the tag in your sweater. To cope with this onslaught of sensory information and still have enough processing power to guard against real threats, your brain has a formula to decide what requires attention. Touches that are rapid, 250 milliseconds apart or less, are dismissed. This is why you don't feel your clothes constantly or notice your seat beneath you. Your tactile brain is in the grip of a constant reverse hallucination. It feels nothing, even though there is actually a lot going on. When hallucinations go wrong, schizophrenia and the brain. In schizophrenia, hallucinations can get out of hand. Tests on people with the condition often show overactivity in their brains, sensory cortices, and poor connectivity from these areas to their frontal lobes, which are the areas judging what is most likely to be real. This suggests that their brain makes lots of predictions that are not given a reality check before they pass into conscious awareness. These insights are helping to provide strategies for treatment. People with drug-resistant schizophrenia can sometimes reduce their symptoms by learning to monitor their thoughts, understand their triggers, and reframe their hallucinations in a more positive and less distressing light. This seems to give them more control over the influence of their internal world. Is reality just a construct? So, if our brain is constantly editing reality, making up details, and filling in gaps, can we ever trust what we see, hear, or feel? If reality is just a hallucination agreed upon by many, then how much of it is real at all? The next time you blink, hear something strange, or even feel the wind against your skin, take a moment to question, is this real or just another creation of my mind? Thank you for watching, subscribe, and until next time,